Hello and welcome to my live, which is Intuitive Clarifications with Natasha. I am here with you to help you go through your life's journeys. And I am so excited to be here to show you some different perspectives on how to live through your life. So, how can you go through some of these things that you're going through? We're all in the midst of a big thing. Pluto went into retrograde on Monday, and it's one of those things that we kind of have to go with the ride of all these planetary changes, and you know, we're going through breaking through some of these old patterns and going through embarking, that's the word I was trying to get to, embarking on these new journeys on just being new. We're trying to find our new truths. We're trying to find our new prosperities. We try to do all these different things. And I'm just so grateful to be here. No matter where you're at and what you're doing, I want you to remember you're going to be perfectly imperfect. Because we're in a story of really digging down deep, right? Well, I know for me that I'm embarking on, setting up new boundaries. Well, these new boundaries aren't always going to be pleasant for those around us, but yet at the same time, it's breaking free of a lot of the things that we've done. So that's why today I wanted to talk about boundaries. For one, I'm negotiating them too. I'm just as human as you are, going through those things that we do. And for those of us that and it's everybody actually. Hi, Kim. Thank you for being here. Hi, Veronica. Thank you for being here. It's like, when we are the type of person that really cares about other people and we really are sensitive about things, and that's, I would consider most everybody. And I honor you for everything that you are and everything that you're going through. And, it's like, and Veronica, I hope that your day is turning out better than what it started out with. And thank you for trusting me this morning. I hope I was helpful, because we're all like negotiating so much and, trying to do boundaries. That's not always easy. Boundaries are not always easy to succeed in, especially if you're one that wants to fix things. I'm one. Right? I'm one that I want to fix things. And it's interesting how, the energies around us are really, triggering other people, which is actually helping us to figure out who we want to be, what we want to do with our lives, what we're going to do. And even if it is just about setting up boundaries. Because when we're setting up boundaries, we have to figure out, what are those boundaries? I know for me, I'm going to use me as an example. Like, I had people who were starting to think that I was a safe place to fall to. And I don't mind that. I really enjoy helping people. I really enjoy supporting people. That is my life calling, is to do that. It's my life purpose also. The thing is, though, many a times, sometimes, it doesn't always fall into people who treat you well. And that's a story, right? We get treated like we're just like one of those garbage cans. Well, I'm not going to say that these people in my life are that way all the way, right? But the thing is, though, sometimes, our good deed gets misunderstood. And that misunderstanding can fall into not the right hands. So for me, I got blamed for doing things that, and this is one thing I want to make clear. I really want to make this clear at this minute in time, that when you speak, when we speak, when others speak, we don't always realize what other people are going through at the time when you speak to them, right? Because many people, when you are speaking to them, they are speaking or hearing out of hurt. They're hearing out of their story. They're hearing out of what they are. They're hearing things in their perspective, right? So even though, like for me, I, in like 24 hours, gave like 2 to 3 people very much good conversations. You are amazing. You look good. Just the simple things. and in a good tone. They didn't hear it that way, right? They didn't hear it that way. Well, that's okay if they didn't hear it that way. I totally get that. The thing is, though, when you're a safe place to fall to, then actually that could be interpreted, and then we get blamed, and I'm going to say we because it was a me thing at this time, blamed for saying something that was so wrong. I don't want to necessarily give details here because I don't want to call those people out. But the thing is, though, when you are deemed the bad person because you said something that was actually like, hey, I hope you have a good day, and in that tone, and it's hi Paula, and then you get misunderstood, right? But the thing is, though, there's this one scenario that I had to set up boundaries with, which was extra strong, was with when this person repeatedly came to me and said, you did this to me. When actually I didn't do any of those things. Now, I may not have been all in the right. And that's the thing, is I'm not claiming to be perfect. I know that sometimes I don't do everything in the right, but I do things with integrity and always try to leave people better than I find them. That's just who I am. The thing is, though, sometimes people don't always do that to you. That's why you called having a boundary. Because now that person that I've had this scenario with, I'm going to use the word they know now that I'm just saying simple words to them. Hi, I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you have a great night. I hope you slept well. Just simple words. Thank you for doing what you do. Just simple words. Nothing more, nothing yet. I'm not going out of my way to have conversation. I'm not going out of my way to negotiate anything deeper, because in the pattern that I have witnessed with this person, that's the thing, is when you have a pattern with someone, you want to make sure that things are things that you are witnessing. Now, I have double checked with people who have witnessed these scenarios with this person, maybe been even in the same conversation, to see how I was perceived. If two other people perceive you that you did okay and that one person says, no, you didn't, there's something a little bit askewed here, something a little off. And I'm not blaming that person, because remember, people hear in their language that they're in. People hear in their story that they're in. If somebody's in depression, they're going to hear it in a depression way. If somebody, like I said to somebody, I hope you know that you're successful. Well, to them, they will never be successful. So that was a total negative word to them. That would be like somebody calling me dumb because of me being dyslexic. That is a trigger word for me. I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I'm free from that journey, right? But the thing is, though, we all have these trigger words, and you never know what these trigger words are for people. So there's a boundary that we can have for ourselves. Sometimes when we know somebody's in depression, and Veronica, I apologize for this if I didn't do this well this morning, that, it's like sometimes we just need to listen. Sometimes we just need to hear. We need to set up a successfulness. We need to just honor the person where they're at. And the thing is, though, like, I'm going to go back to this person. There's been at least 7 or 8 times since, I didn't want to say summer, that I have been told that I have sabotaged them in some way. And I'm going to use sabotage because, well, you did this to me. You did that to me. You did this to me. You did that. You said that. You did this. You did this in this tone, da, 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 da. Right? So in their eyes, I sabotaged them. That's a word I'm using just because I want to make it better off, right? But the thing is, though, through my witnessing, I know I didn't. And so now that pattern of me hurting her, which is not my intention, I'm going to take out the fuel. I'm going to take away the fuel. I'm going to take away those moments that can fuel her to be the safe place to fall, which means deeper conversations. That means, having more than 3 or 4 words. Hi, Sue. Good to see you. All these things, we need to have these boundaries. And even with the people we live with, we need to have boundaries sometimes, because the fact that, when we're married, You know, many a times those married friends of ours, they think of us, the partners, as safe places to fall to. So setting up boundaries is a good thing. Now we can set up boundaries with very much love, good intentions, and care. And those are the healthier ones, right? Like there's a lot of people that it's like they don't have good moms and dads or siblings, right? And they've had to cut the cords to that family because it was unhealthy. That was a strong boundary. That was something that was needed. And I totally can honor that. Right. But like for me, where this other person, I have to interact with her on a daily basis or them on a daily basis. Right. And so with that I need to have some kind of professional boundary, professional understanding, professional walk, right? And that's the thing is if we think of ways that we can have professional boundaries, that we're going to have to actually interact with the world around us, that we can actually do better, right? Because professional boundaries mean is that we kind of go, give me the facts, just the facts. This is what's happening. Take the emotion away from it, because many a times the people around us are just messengers. They're just mirrors for us, right? Those mirrors. And I know for me, when I had something that happened to me two times, within 24 hours of the same scenario coming through, that I had to really look at me. What was this telling me? What was this mirroring back to me? Because what was mirroring back to me is that I was trying to be too supportive when somebody was not in that right energy. In other words, my light, my optimism was so opposite of their pessimism or story or depression that it wasn't in alignment for them to hear. And I've done that a couple times, and I'm learning, I'm understanding discernment. I've practiced discernment. Oh, here's another lesson of discernment, right? Of how can I discern my way through these relationships? Well, we can, and that's being observant in your life. How can you observe your life? Now, it's not necessarily, I'm not going to shoot the messengers, right? I'm not going to shoot, but I also know that the scenario, let's say with this one person, that they are somebody who's shown me who they are, and that's one that I need to have boundaries. So, there again, take away the fuel. Take away the fuel. And I know that someone who I'm married with, I've, had to have some boundaries with that one because of him being a recovering alcoholic through those years, right? That, there was some boundaries I needed to have with him. And, but I always did it to where we can grow and change from it. And, communication is a good one. I don't have to communicate all my boundaries with everyone. Like this other person, I'm not going to communicate that boundary unless they come up to me and ask me a question like, why aren't you talking to him anymore? Then I'm going to voice that boundary in a way that I can say it's not a boundary, but it's just a care. I feel like that there's this thing that bothers you about me, and I just want to honor you enough to say that I'm being kind to you with just this little conversation as I can, because it seems like if I talk to you any more than that, I hurt you, and that's not what I want to do. So I'm giving you the space. I'm letting you take charge. I'm letting you do what you want to do because that's what's calling for you to do. So I'm going to let you have it. It's your business. I want to honor it. So those aren't exactly the words. I'm going to trust the words that come out at that time if they ask me. But the thing is, though, we don't always have to say what our boundaries are. Sometimes we just got to cut off the conversation. Like, block somebody on a phone. You don't need to have that conversation with somebody. You don't need to have these moments where, you can say, I'm done, and that's all you need to say. I'm nice that, and I haven't had to do that in my life where I've just cut people off, but I know I've had to have boundaries where I was not going to go down that rabbit hole anymore. because I know that there's a personality that I do not want to be around anymore. And I can love people around that personality, but I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Another boundary of mine, right? That those boundaries are about I can love around that moment of of um of being belittled and struggling, right? But I'm not going to necessarily stop being care. I don't want to stop caring for someone just because of a moment. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a life. Everybody has these mindsets where they're at, right? So come into this. Come into how can you set up boundaries? Boundaries will be shown to you when repetitive action is done to thyself and it doesn't feel good. Okay? And it doesn't feel good. So that's a teller that a boundary needs to be done when something does not feel good. If somebody tells you something that is not a truth, when somebody tells me that I'm mean, I may not be always exactly careful, but my intention is not to be mean. I'm not one of those that are mean people. I don't like to be mean. And sometimes boundaries can come across as mean, but they're not. They're just saying, this doesn't work for me anymore. And that's okay to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. But that's a thing, though, we have to understand that other people may have boundaries around us too. And it's not always, we can be the giver, but we don't always want to be the receiver, right? So what happens if you are on the receiving end of a boundary? Mm, ouch. Mm, ow. That doesn't always feel good. Because it's not about being right and it's not about being wrong. The thing is, though, if we are on the receiving end of needing to have a boundary, it's called hearing it and witnessing it. Because sometimes those boundaries are here to teach us something. Like we just had something that happened in our school district here, and somebody was voted into a certain situation, and that they're not always careful with their words. They're kind of blurty. They're reactive. They have this reactionary thing, and this person is being told that she's going to have to tone that down. There's a boundary that's put on her. That she's in a responsibility situation here. She's going to have to learn to maybe take a breath before she reacts. Now, if she doesn't learn that boundary, if she doesn't learn that scenario, then she's going to have a cause and effect from it. Because, if somebody, like, let's say if somebody says to me, hey, I don't want to be called uh successful, right? That's a boundary put on me. I'm not to use that word anymore as much as I can, or be conscious of it. And then if I do say it, say something like, whoa, that one slipped out. It's in my language and I'm trying my better. And I honor you for what you've gone through. Because boundaries are something that we need to respect from other people. Like today, I called a student the wrong name. I was close and I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to that. I had your name in my head and then another name came out and both names started with a C. So I was very close, but I was not. And he put a boundary on me. That's not my name. My name is, and I apologized because I didn't mean to do that. So he had a boundary. Now, how did I receive that? That was an easy receiving. The thing is, though, it's about what can we do to feel better about ourselves? What can we do to negotiate who we are? What can we do to be our better self? And sometimes boundaries are put on so that we can have these internal growth moments. Not always fun. These internal growth moments are times when we need to really check in with ourselves, really check in with who we are, really check in with what am I really doing that I'm not conscious of doing? Because that is what it is. Like the person that I had to put this boundary on, that I interact with on a daily basis, and not at home here, but out in the world, that, it's like they might not want to hear it, but it would be a personal growth opportunity for them. And if we can take a look at these things with a little bit of grain of salt and a little bit of understanding that a lot of times life is mirroring us so that we can work on something. So when something happened about 2 times within 24 hours, I went, ooh, here's a moment that's mirroring something in me. So what am I mirroring? Okay, so I'm mirroring that I am actually probably stepping into other people's lives a little bit more than I need to or should at the moment, uninvited. Right? Now, sometimes you're invited, or sometimes I'm invited, and then it backfires a little bit. There again is my boundary. There again is my scenario. There again is why I'm making a choice to have this boundary. So I'm hoping this helps. Does anybody need any explanation, or am I negotiating this well? Thank you, everybody who's watching. I'm so grateful for everyone to be here. Because the fact that boundaries right now, Pluto's in retrograde. We're coming out of a lot of triggers. This last new moon, oh my gosh. I know that was almost a week away, a week ago, but oh my gosh. Who, what, where, just went flip-flop up and down. Now we're coming into a full moon. So we're really in the car wash for things. I had to set a good boundary on me because I spent money when I was depressed. And so I really had to set up boundaries. So, like when my husband wanted to go shopping one day at the end of the month, and I had to put a boundary on myself. And I said, hey, babe, it's not in my budget at this time to go shopping. I didn't plan for it, and it's not in my, so if I don't buy anything, it's because of this. And I told him ahead of time so he knew that it wasn't about us not being able to go. It was because I wanted to go. I just wasn't going to be spending money. The boundary on myself, because I learned don't spend more money than you have. Right? So I had to have that boundary on me because life mirrored back that I needed to work on that. See where this goes? It's almost like a tennis match, isn't it? Or a ping pong game. We do this, you do that, they do that, we need to do this. How many are feeling like you need to put boundaries on TV right now? I do. How many of you are feeling like you need to put boundaries on how you drive down the road? I do. How do you feel about having boundaries when you go into a grocery store or around other people? How do you want to hear the world around us? We need to have boundaries on that too sometimes because we're all figuring out about our truth. And as we're going forward, it's about how can we live our life better and leave ourselves better than we find ourselves. Ain't that a story? How can we leave ourselves better than we find ourselves? If anybody has an idea on that, I would love to hear it. Because life is about learning. Life is about stretch and pull. Life is about how can you negotiate the world around you. Life is really changing a lot. Life is really going to be changing a lot. We are embarking on a huge shift on this planet. Huge shift. We haven't had this kind of shift in a long, long time. And I don't think we've lived through it many times before this. but we're choosing to live on this planet during this huge shift. And I know that the other day my husband said, oh, he was a little bit agitated. I'm going to use the word, and he was saying, "Well, I'm just kind of agitated and worried because I feel like this big shift is coming, and I don't know what it is. Aren't you worried about it? Aren't you kind of freaked out about it?" And I go, "No, there's a boundary with myself. I'm not. I know there's a big shift coming in. I'm hearing my guides a little bit what it is, but I know there's going to be some other salt and pepper in this too. Not too sure yet what it is." The thing is, though, I told him, and this is a boundary for my cortisol, I am done being stressed out about things I cannot control. My cortisol and my fear and flight has been so on edge my whole life. I'm done with it. And so I've had to put a boundary on my anxiety and my stress. See, boundaries are all over the place that we can have, right? It's not, we can have boundaries on our emotions, on our mind. Oh, that's the one I'm going to go to next is boundaries on the mind. Because of the fact that I told him that I'm listening to my guides, I'm listening to my intuition, I'm listening to what I'm called to do that hopefully will help me be successful through the next story of this big shift that I'm feeling is coming. Now, it could be personal, it could be outwardly, it could be earthly. I know that I'm asking my guides to tell me, but I don't really have an idea fully what it might be. But I told him, I can't stress out about it. I have tools. I know I'll be okay. I've been okay in the past, and I know I'll be okay in the future. It may be a stretch and pull thing, but I know I can do it. So going into this, when you need to have boundaries, especially with self, so let's talk about boundaries of the mental mind and it's running and it's going forward. You can have boundaries with your mind. Did you know that? For one, when you ask the question, who's in charge of your thoughts? Ask the question, who's in charge of your thoughts? Is it your mind? Is it you? Is it your emotions? Is it the world around you? Who is it, right? Who is in charge of your mind's thoughts? Many times it's routine. Many times it's patterns. Many times it's habits that we get into. That our mind gets in the habit of running. What I mean by running is always thinking, right? Sue says, I feel like a shift isn't coming. We are in a thick of it and we are making our way through it. Yes. And when I say there's a shift coming, I know that we're kind of going through a shift right now. Okay, I get it. But there's these times when there's just these little bit of peaks of change. Like I'm hearing that there might be something in the government, right? So I know that we're in this minute of change. I get that. But sometimes there's these little peaks of a little bit more. And I'm feeling it's around the solstice time because there's a lot of triggers around solstice and equinoxes. And so there's something about that shift. Now, I know that my stepson is going to be getting married at the end of June, and that's going to be a huge shift too because of family coming in and the realities coming in. So how do you negotiate being in this? So your mental mind, for one, you can have a mental moment where your brain is saying, and you can ask the question, who's in charge of these thoughts? And when you know that your mind is in charge of the thoughts, there's been times where I've been thinking something and I've asked the question, who's thinking this? And I heard anger, or I heard sadness, or I heard emotions are are interacting with your mind's thoughts. Not necessarily in that language. I asked, who's doing these thoughts? And I heard emotions. Quick conversation. I went, oh, okay. Well, I can understand that these emotions that I'm feeling are going to trigger some thoughts, and I'm going to let them go. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to go down a story. I'm not going to go down a lot of these different places, right? But asking the question, who's in charge of these thoughts? That really disarms sometimes those moments. Okay, so that's one way to disarm the mental mind. Another way is tell it to stop. Mind, stop. You need to stop. You need to frickin' stop. You've been thinking the same thing over and over and over again. You need to stop. And then replace it with something else to think of, i.e. music, i.e. Other conversations, i.e. calling up a friend, i.e. doing what you can do to get your mind off of that pattern that it's continuously thinking. And I can tell you, once you start practicing over and over and over again, who's in control of this thought, this thinking moment, a lot of times the mind starts kind of coming down a breath, coming down a breath, coming down a little bit more of a breath, coming down a little bit more. So that's part of negotiating a lot of this mental mind. And sometimes I use quick mantras. I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. I trust, I trust, I trust, I trust. I know I can do it. 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 So whatever that thing is that I can negotiate what is in that Sue says, gotta fly. Have a great night. You too, my dear, and blessings on your journey. And thank you for being here, Sue. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you next week. So going into this, that, we are in the midst of this. Now, emotions. Can you have boundaries on emotions? Yes, you can. You can have boundaries on emotions also. Anxiety. People have anxiety that's in control of them, right? They're not in control of their anxiety. Not that we need to be in control of anything. It's not about that. But many of us have these scenarios that we fall into that are troublesome. So if we know we're in fear, anxiety, same difference, worry, and that kind of thing, many times it's because we don't know what the future is. And that's where I play the game of, and I use as positive language as I can with this. What if? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And as I'm pointing up and I'm negotiating this. So what is it that you can say? Well, plan it out. See what's going to happen. Like a lot of people get anxiety about walking in a room full of people. Play the what if game. What if I do walk into that room? Well, I'll have anxiety. Okay, what about anxiety? What if I get to talk to some people that can change my world? Anxiety would be a little bit more calmer, you think? Maybe. If you say, what if I walk in that room and nobody likes me? There's music going on. I'll just have fun with the music. Find those ways to negotiate past the what, go to the what if. What if I just turn around and walk away? Well, I got all dressed up to go through this door, so why not go through this door? You never know what's on the other side of the doors, metaphorically. So having boundaries on these emotions, having boundaries. Now, when you know that you're in interaction more than reaction, you know that you and your emotions are walking as a twosome, right? As a moment. And if you can, honor who you are in that moment. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have those emotions. But the thing is, so what I'm talking about is when something has more control over you. If your sadness has more control over you, if your optimism has more control over you, if your pessimism has more control over you, if you're more interactive or more reactive than interactive into a situation. Now, I'm going to tell you sometimes that we are reactive to a situation. Sometimes we are the person that is in hurt or story, and we have to take account for that. But the thing is, though, when we practice where we're at and what we're doing, many times we can have a little bit more interaction, which means taking a breath before you react. There's been conversations I've had with my husband that I'll say, I'm not saying anything because I'm taking a breath and I'm thinking about what I want to say back for the betterment of this story or this conversation. I don't need to say something back right away. That's having boundaries on myself. I don't need to react to what was being said until I think about it. And then I can have a growth conversation. Because, being right or wrong isn't always right. And it's not always wrong. Sometimes it's in the middle. So please remember that as you're going forward, that boundaries are a healthy thing, especially when we think about it. Observe what the life is trying to tell us. Observe what we're going through. Observe a little bit more of what's happening for us, right? Because, we are in a moment where things are happening. Life is happening. The world around us is changing. Okay. And if we can find a rhythm and a story about what we're going to do, life is moving forward, like it or not. But having healthier boundaries is going to help us do better. When we want to spend our money and we know that maybe we should save it a little bit. Wow, that's a good boundary, right? If we know that we're eating too much sugar and our body is not liking it, that would be a good boundary. If we're having a scenario of life and it repeats over and over and over again and it does not help us do better or feel better, many a times, that's where boundaries need to happen. So, I'm hoping today's conversation has been helpful because of the fact that boundaries are not always easy. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to kind of say here is that, there's some times where, after you set up a boundary because something triggered this boundary to happen, and then things get better for a little while. Things get a little bit easy for a while. The person around us kind of gets a little bit better, or the situation lightens up because the edge came off. That's when we got to trust ourselves. There's a reason for that boundary. Be kind. But do not step both feet into a situation that you're going to wish you kept that boundary. Like me at the scenario that I'm talking about, that as much as things are going good right now, and this is where my old self would have slipped right in, right? But I've had to remind myself over and over and over again, less is more. Less is more with this person. Send her off with good care. Send her off with love and light. Send her off with the wisdom that she can. And remembering that there are good boundaries for this situation, even when things are good. Right? So Paula says, frequencies have waves. So normal to have peaks and valleys in every frequency. Definitely. Because when we recognize something needs to happen, a lot of times that gives something a breath. We don't have to keep learning that lesson in that experience. The thing is, though, that's when, if we want to help things do better, many a times, right? Many a times, that's when something will creep up. Like this person would come up. You remember when you said, that was a month ago when things were good. So that pattern has shown me, that person has shown me, I need to have boundaries even in good times. Thank you. Thank you. Totally can relate. Thank you, Kim, for that. And freaking, hello, freaking stop. Yes. It's a moment. It's a moment. It's a moment. Yes, stop. This reality that we're in, can we just have a break? Oh my gosh. Can we just have a break? Can we just have a break? But it doesn't look like it. And I'm sorry. It is so exciting to be on this planet at this time, though. I'm going to tell you, it is so exciting to be on this planet at this time. We chose to be here. Hallelujah. What are we going to do about it? Leave ourselves better than we find ourselves. Leave other people better than we find them. And sometimes that means discernment and saying the simplicity things. So, what time is it? Oh, I was going to channel. And you know who wants to come in is Mother Mary. Mother Mary wants to come in and give some guidance on this. Okay, so hold on a second. Let me get prepped for this channel. And I, since we're at 15 minutes to the hour, I might pull maybe 2 or 3 oracle cards, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do full readings here. Okay. So she's right here on the edge. So so remember when I channel, I am not a full channel. I am still here a little bit interacting, but if you can, even if you don't believe I'm channeling, please listen to the words, because even now I'm channeling a little bit. So listen to the words that are coming through me, and I'm hoping that they are helpful. Okay. So, and don't worry, Veronica, you're doing good. I know that's in your mind. I feel it. It's in your mind. Hello, dear ones. Oh, what a magical moment you are in right now. And this is a perfect conversation about life right now. Because the fact that when you're going through some scenarios with the choices you can make, it's always coming down to choices. Choices are the basis of every boundary. Choices. Choices are something that you can really honor through the moment. I, myself, had to make choices. Do I listen to my mother or do I listen to my grandmother? My grandmother was one that taught me a lot of the herbals, techniques, and a lot of those ways of the old land at that time. And she was very intuitive in her ways. My mother decided to do something else in her life. And she balked at what my grandmother was. She never really cherished who my grandmother was. Well, I did. And so there was a conflict there. So I needed to make a choice to not necessarily interact with my mother in fullity because of our belief systems were so different. I would have one conversation with my mother and a deeper, more intentful conversation with my grandmother because that is the way that things were. And so going into who you are and growing into what is going to be happening to you and growing into this next stage of your life, you will be finding that boundaries, choices for your betterment will come into a better fluidity of your life's journey. Come into who you are and what you are with a pattern of blessings. Always think, what can help me do better in this situation? That is a good question. What can I do to help myself do better in this situation? It might mean that you have conversations with the people around you, right? Like this dear one did with her husband, and had a choice to spend money or not. So she set up a boundary with herself and communicated that well with her husband. He honored her more for that because he's always thought she did not do well with her money. So there is another boundary that was secretively placed, right? That she showed him that she had managed her money well in that day. That was a boundary with his thought patterns on her, right? It didn't necessarily mean to come out that way, but it did, because she did not like to be told that she wasn't doing something that she was doing. She wasn't doing things that he thought she was doing. She was doing better than that. But since he didn't see it through his own two eyes, which sometimes some people need to, right? That sometimes we can have these boundaries with ourselves and with others that aren't always spoken of as a boundary. There are many things woven in the choices that we make to have these moments come into better lifestyle. When you are living your life, remember, boundaries are not a straight line or a brick wall. They are not. They are not a tree that will not bend in the wind. They are not a building who looks like it is strong, yet it will bend with the wind. All boundaries need to have a little bit of give and a little bit of strength. Most of the time, the tree boundaries with the wind will fall, the whole tree will fall, or it may sacrifice a limb. So that it can have boundaries with that wind and say, I have to stay upright. I want to live. I do not want to die. Others choose to fall over all the way and know that they are no longer able to be here anymore to help this earth. They have done their time on this earth. There again is a boundary. They use the wind's strength to help them make a choice in that moment. They stopped having the boundary. When you know things are going to be okay, sometimes boundaries need to shift and change. They are movable like a chess game, and it's not serious like a chess game. It's about communication. It's about going forward and about doing what you can to better your life's journey. Oh, I love that story. We gave this dear one that statement, your life's journey. Your life's journey is something that will come into fruition the more you are knowing yourself. You are knowing yourself. And as I put my hands on on Natasha's chest and on her throat center, it's about and one stacked on top of the other for those that will listen later, that when you come into this understanding of being centered in yourself, boundaries are easier to be successful with. Because when you are in a life journey, many times we jump from one thing to another, thinking we are done with that scenario, that idea. but we jump right back into something else that has some of that little bit of dance with it, right? A little bit of the same story with it, maybe not in the fullity of it, but you may find that there might be some patterns that are continuing on into what you jumped into next. And that is okay, because they may be just enough different, with a little bit different language, to receive them with a little bit more grace and ease, to hear that you need to shift up this part of ourselves. Did you hear me? It's not a shift down, it's a shift up. It's a shift up into who you are and what you're doing. Don't worry. Don't feel self-punished, because we are all human, going through this life as it is. And it's called learning. You came on this planet to learn, and the learning is just coming in patterns and in almost sometimes rocks falling down a hill on top of you, right? But remember, you can dodge the big rocks, and that story will come back around a little bit smaller rocks, or a smaller negotiation of your life. I love that word that she uses. We love pricking this dear girl's brain. Please remember, your vibration makes a difference. Turn on something that brings up your vibration. Does your vibration change when you listen to certain music? Does your vibration change when you have certain conversations? You want to have your vibration be as smooth vibrating as you can through these changes that are coming forth for you. Many of you will be having some changes, yes, here coming up in the June time. You are in, as the dear one said, Sue said that we are in change, yes. But there's going to be something that will change. Something in the outer world that will change the inner world of yours. But remember to please do not run. Look into what is truly happening with you. You can walk, you can make decisions, you can interact, but please do not run. Change is happening around you, and remember, change can change back or change forward or change sideways. There's always something coming forward. Believe in who you are and what you do, and remember that miracles are happening all the time, and you are part of that. Call in the miracles to see what you can be and do, my dears, because there are going to be miracles coming forward. This is part of the end of what you are going to be the beginning of what you are. My love is with you. Remember, I am here with you all the time. And remember that love is the key to all change, even with the boundaries that you have. My love is with you, my dears. Blessed be on your journey. Wow. Whew. She came in deep. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Would like a card, please, if you have time. Yes. I'm going to point a night light of you so I can work on your altar. Yes. Thank you. So going to point a night light at you so I can work on your altar. Yeah. I guess I'm sorry, just coming out of this. So it's taking me a little bit to come back. Whew, that one's a strong one. Card as well, Paula. Yes. So Veronica and Paula. Yes. Yeah. I'm kind of not. I know you made that clear about the altar thing, but yes, I have. I don't have night lights on. Oh, I have salt lamps, so that always helps for that. Okay, so Veronica, you're first with this. Clear the cards. Okay, so this is for Veronica. Remember, put your intention out there. Woo! Okay, so you got two cards, Veronica. One was mystery. Life is a mystery, right? But it's a path, and you're going to be going down the path. But remembering that if we don't know what the path is going to be in the future, we have the tools to get through the signpost, right? Because you have the ability to get through your life, right? Cow is an amazing messenger. It's about nourishment, abundance, asking and receiving. So remembering that you're digesting your life as well as you can at this minute. You're going through immense change, as I know, and honor yourself. Digest your life. Digest your altar for Mary. Yes. Alter your believe in you. You got strength, my dear, and you're only gaining the tools right now to get yourself through the mystery. But remembering nourishing your body during the stress is very important. Okay? You don't want to get bloated, right? You don't want to get bloated with other truths. You don't want to get bloated with other understandings. Remember how cow can get bloated easily. Okay? So take care of yourself. That will help with the mystery. Okay? Okay. You're more than welcome. I love you too, my dear. Okay, so Paula, here's one for you. You're channeling. You channeled before you saw it. Oh, okay. Interesting. Woo! Okay, this is for Paula. Okay, you have the Earth Fairy, physical health, grounding, foundation. You have that. You have great foundation. You have come into your fullity of who you are. Paula, you've been negotiating with the land in a different way. Ooh, that's a blessing because you've communicated with yourself well and you've communicated with others even better. So keep doing what you're doing. You're on a road. There's one more card, top card I heard, because you have the magic to be able to negotiate it. So believe in you and believe in your show of you. Okay? You've got this. Your magic is here. You may have a little bit of eldership in this understanding, but you've got it. Okay? And yes, Mother Mary is at the other finger. Right there. Right there. And she's very much part of me everywhere. I have Mother Mary everywhere. So thank you. You channeled before you saw it. Okay. Oh, I might have to go back and watch this end of the show, right? Okay. But a bunch of cards came out. Okay. So this is one of those things where I'm going to do cards for everybody. Okay. So let me see what's the story of these? Okay. So the card that came out was the death card. We're going through a big death of the process because we have too much loyalty to our old stories and it's time to change them up. but the disruption is going to be for our betterment if we're gentle with who we are and the world around us, because it's going to be the balance of feminine and masculine coming up, that we have the power to negotiate what we're going through, because love can heal. Love can heal this whole story. So perception is going to be huge. Okay? Perception is going to be huge. I'm Natasha Venter. So enjoying this life right now. I know it's not easy. I've had a headache pretty much all day today. I've been doing a little detoxing, trying to do better with myself. Remembering that, as we go forward in our life is not easy, not all the time. But when we take care of ourselves, make sure we get some good sleep, balance the mind, emotions, and story so we can be better. And remembering that, thank you, you're more than welcome, Kim, that when we are in the middle of these changes, hold on to love for yourself. Find those things that can bring joy to you. And remembering that no matter what you're doing, the endings can always find love in the new beginnings. Okay? May you find blessings. I'm Natasha Venter at intuitiveclarifications.com. So grateful. I got reposted on the Next Level Soul. And I'm having, I actually am. Thank you. I took the afternoon and just kind of rested. And so I think I'm going to go back and do that once I post the show. But feeling very good, actually. This detoxing is a very good thing. My liver and gallbladder are having happy times. And actually, you know what's so funny is that this finger, the middle finger, is about the liver and the gallbladder. And you know what? It started dislocating, so I've been wrapping it. And then the ring that was on this finger broke. So, time to start new with my liver and my gallbladder, and anger and frustration. New boundaries may help that. And my moonstone actually probably needed to be put away for a while because of the fact that I needed to get a different vision for my life's journey. So there again, having boundaries with self, having boundaries with the world around us, and, send love to those things that are asking for love. Blessed be. If you're looking for individual help and assistance, I have time in my schedule that I can do that with. Been a little bit more busier because of being on the Next Level Soul, but I do have time. Blessed be to you. Natasha Venter, intuitiveclarifications.com. Enjoy my short little videos that I do for you and on social media, and I hope that they are helpful. See you next Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. Blessed be. It might be the third week, isn't it? Makes you go, Blessed be. No, it's not. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.